Now, welcome back everyone. In this particular segment, what I'm going to cover is specifically how you can deal with the feedback, how can you make sense of the feedback, and how do you go about accumulating the feedback from your audience members. You see, feedback is extremely important because it feeds back to you the kind of things that the audience members want, the kind of things that would make the greatest and the deepest impact for the audience members. So let's get started on this segment called feedback. Now, many a times we think that, when it comes to a public speaking workshop, it's just about the strategies, but it's apart from those strategies, it's really about the feedback. And how do you go about independently sourcing for it and make sense of it? So let me start by sharing with you this particular story. You see, many a times, people ask me, Darren, what is the one equipment that I need to invest in if I want to be a great speaker? And there was this one time when I had this conversation with a very good mentor of mine. This mentor of mine told me that, Darren, you have to invest in a video camera. And I was thinking, and I said it out loud, Coach, you mentioned that video camera, but that's something I already know. It's just recording myself speak, right? But that was when my coach then gave me a realization that while many trainers, many coaches talk about investing in a camera, using it to record the speaker's performance and then to evaluate the speaker's performance, not many coaches actually tell you to use the video camera for a wholly different purpose. And the video camera that you should use is for the purpose of video recording your audience. And that got me thinking, why do I want to video record my audience members? Should it be to video record me as a speaker? That's just so counterintuitive. But it was then my mentor actually explained by saying that the best sort of feedback that you can get is the live feed from the audience members. The live feed from the audience members by capturing their facial expression, capturing the change in the body movement, capturing their micro body leakages at that precise point in which you deliver a story, you deliver a punchline, a punch word, humor point, whatsoever. But it's to capture that precise point that your audience members reacted. And how did they react? The best way to do it is to video record your audience while you are speaking. But take note of two main tips. Tip number one is that when you video record the audience members, it must be from the vantage point of a speaker. And what this means is that it should be taking the audience members like how I'm looking at you. That means from my vantage point. You see, in so doing, you then perhaps need to invest in a different kind of video recording equipment. Maybe a special GoPro that allows you to attach it to your chest, or perhaps have some video recording devices at the back. So it's easier for you to capture the audience members' attention. And take note that you need to capture as wide a breadth as possible. So capture widely so that you can take all the audience members' expression, movements, the change in energy level into consideration. Now, the second tip is that when you capture the audience members' attention, make sure that the sound, or rather, when you speak, it is clear and can be heard. Now, this is important because it doesn't make sense if you were to record the audience member's facial expression without at the same time recording at that precise moment what you were saying. So that if you were to do that, then you can do a proper feedback analysis. Then there's the sort of question that some people might then ask, hey, isn't it good enough that I rely on what we call the speaker's sense? Now, we heard of the 5 senses, we heard of the 6th sense, but what exactly is the speaker's sense, right? Now, you see, for many speakers, as they progressed and go from amateur to pro, they start to develop a very keen and acute sense as a speaker. The sense, the ability to detect change in energy level, the ability to detect the change in posture, change in in expressions of the audience members, and know that the audience members are up to something. That the audience members might not agree with you wholly here. That the audience members might be losing some kind of focus, that therefore you need to re-engage them. So when you do that, if you rely solely on your speaker's sense, then you might not be able to capture fully throughout maybe the hour talk that you're giving or the 2 hour, 3 hour talk. So rely on the video recording device. Now, having said that, I'm now going to share with you how you should go about asking for feedback after your workshop. You see, now that you have relied on a video recording device to capture what actually went on, you would then want to get feedback after the process itself. So how do you go about asking feedback? And here there are several ways, of course, but I'm going to share with you the one that I use very often in 3 easy steps. 3 steps. So let's go. How do you ask for feedback? So asking for feedback is an art in and of itself. You know why? Because many people might be a little bit afraid to give you the feedback, not knowing how you might react to it. The worst time to get feedback from the audience members is when the audience members, they are seated together in a form of a group feedback session. Because in that way, you might not truly elicit and get the right response, the honest response from the audience members. They might be a bit worried of being judged, that not many people might agree with their point of view. So take note of that. Ask for individual feedback. When it's done, when the event is over, bring them and speak with them in public. Step number 1 is to give permission. Give them permission to give you feedback. What do I mean by give permission? It means that let them know, I value your feedback very much. I want to hear from you what you think were clear and what you felt were areas that were perhaps not so clear with my presentation. Please feel free to let me know. I'll be deeply appreciative of that. The moment you say that you're giving someone else a pass to give you feedback, that you will not be offended, that you'll be open about the person's point of view. Step number 2 is where you need to then suspend judgment. Now, suspending judgment is easier said than done. What do I mean by suspend judgment? It means that you do not straight away jump and retaliate when you receive a feedback from the audience. When the audience tell you that, hey, you know, this is one area that you can work on, instead of just being quick to rebut, just take it in first, don't judge, and then you can do the judging and the evaluation later on your own. So suspend judgment. And the last step, step number 3, is of course avoid going for, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you rate my presentation just now? Because you see, even if they give you an 8, or if they give you a 6.5, a 6.2, or 5.3, it's not going to make much sense to you because it's just merely a number. What you want for feedback is not a qualitative approach. What you want for feedback is correction. See, I got it confused already. What you want for feedback, I repeat, is not a quantitative approach. But what you want for feedback is a qualitative approach. Thank you very much. So you want a qualitative approach. You want people to give you description as to how they feel about your feedback. So therefore, you need to ask open-ended questions. And the best way to ask open-ended questions is with your interrogative pronouns, your 5W and your 1H. Start off the question with your who, what, when, where, and why, as well as your how. So these are some of the very quick tips on how you can elicit feedback and what you can do to bring the process of your growth to the whole new level.